I did, however, often think about what I would do if my wife ever asked for a divorce. Would I blast, weep, please, and why would either of us want to get a divorce? I thought we were happy. We did things together. Date nights were fun for both of us, and we both loved our jobs. Almost everything in our lives was great, until I was told I would be leaving my wife in Korea for a year. At the time, I was a captain in the Army, Theodore James C. My name is Samuel. Maria Samuel was the name of my wife. She sold cosmetics for a well-known business across the country. She was doing pretty well because Maria got a cut of the sales made by other women who worked for her. They weren't really her workers, but they sold their makeup through Maria and told her about all of their sales. She got paid for everything they did. They also had a meeting every year that she always went to. Following my second attendance, I swore to myself that I would never go again. The thought of being stuck in a convention center with a few thousand crazy, screaming women was a bit much for me. We knew that a short tour by myself was coming up, but I always hoped against hope that I would get lost among the other people and be forgotten. It was not going to happen. I was told about a 13-month tour in Korea. It was sad for both of us when I left, as it was for all the troops who had left before me. It was my first job to work as a project officer in the operations office at headquarters, 8th Army. I had only been there for about 3 months before I was moved to work for the commanding general. It was a big promotion for me, not in terms of rank, but in terms of status. Maria and I talked about how lonely it was and how much we missed and loved each other almost every day. She told me one day that she was going to a work convention in Hawaii. She had never missed one before, so I knew she was serious. Then she posed for some pictures and sent them to me. Seeing her in them made me miss her even more. If you're asking who took the pictures, the other 3 women in her group were also in them. I used to work in my office, 2 doors down from the general commanding, when his secretary brought in the travel plan for the commanding general for the next month. Those were always classified until the event, which really just means that only people with a need to know knew where and when he was traveling. Afterwards, nobody cared, so the classification went away. So it showed that he was attending a 3-day conference in Hawaii, then going on leave for a week before attending meetings in Washington. He was to be gone a full 2 weeks. I looked at the calendar on my desk, and 2 of the days overlapped Maria's convention. I immediately put my name on the manifest of the general's plane. I was going to Hawaii. I had arrived 2 days before she was scheduled to get there. My plan was to surprise her, spend the convention with her, then fly back home for 10 more days. I would meet the general's plane in Washington, D.C. to fly back to Korea. There was room at her hotel until the conventioneers started coming in, so I asked for a room. I did mention to them that I will surprise my wife there, and they did ask for her reservation. Dr. Jenkins, it won't come as a big surprise. You're already signed up with her. I was shocked and asked, She does? Yes, sir. I can put you in that room if that is what you would prefer. I almost ran away when they said, Let me call you back. Do you know who Dr. Jenkins was? But if she called, I'd know what was going on. And if something was going on, she'd have time to change it. In those romance books, the husband waits in the hotel hallway for his wife and her lover to show up, and then he confronts them. I felt like I was in that book. If not, you could catch them loving in their room, either just starting to love or finished loving. On the other hand, I might have been exaggerating and everything was fine. If I really thought that, I was as stupid as dirt. I had almost 2 days to decide what to do. The only thing the hotel could do for me was give me a room until the women started coming in. After that, I'd have to find another place to stay. That was not so easy to do. There was no room at any hotel in Honolulu. After that, I remembered that the military had a hotel. I called them after finding their number. I called a cab and checked in because they only had 1 room available. I was sitting on the beach for an hour, not sure what to do next. I didn't decide to go to bed until 3 in the morning. The next day, I went shopping in the morning and then to the beach in the afternoon. Maria was due to arrive early in the afternoon, so I went to her hotel after getting ready with what I had planned. The sweater I bought the day before was pulled up over my head, and even though they were big, they covered almost my whole face. As I walked up to the front desk of the hotel, I took off my sunglasses and pulled my hoodie back just far enough for the worker to see me, but not so far that if there were cameras there, they would definitely be able to tell who I was. At least, that's what I hoped. "Sir, those people who came for the convention and were supposed to stay with us have already registered, and keys were given to them at the convention center next door." "Thanks," I said, putting my glasses back on my face and pulling my hoodie up over my head. I left my stuff where it was because I thought there would be a lot fewer cameras inside the convention center. When it was my turn, I asked the woman at the registration desk the same question. She looked through her files and saw that my sister was in room 1286. It looked like she and her husband had just checked in. Walking away, I said, "Thanks." Across the room, there was a big bulletin board with the words, "Find your group," written across the top. I went to it and found Maria's group. It said she was in an advanced skin color class in 2 hours and gave me the room number. It happened in a long hall with lots of seats. There was always someone walking up and down the hall, and I never heard anyone talking like that. No one could sleep there. I saw her walk up with 2 other women about 10ths of a minute before her class. I had my glasses on and my hoodie up, but she was focused on the conversation she was having with the other women. Now that I know she was there, I need to find out if Dr. Jenkins, whoever he was with her. When I got back to the hotel, I sat in the lobby and didn't know what to do next. All I could see was 2 security guards do a sweep and then disappear behind a door without leaving a mark. A few minutes later, one of them came out dressed as a civilian, and that gave me an idea. I went into that room and took a look inside. I saw what looked like an empty office with 2 doors marked male and female. I went into the mail room and heard the shower running and looked around. I found a guard uniform on a bench in front of a row of lockers. I picked it up and searched the pockets, finding several key cards on a chain. I left the store with my purchases and wore my hoodie and sunglasses a lot. I walked outside of the hotel until I felt safe enough to look at my key cards. There were cameras everywhere. I went into a crazy Hawaiian shirt store and took my glasses off in the men's room. Sure enough, one of the key cards said Master on it. I smiled. Now I'm thinking that once this guard saw that he lost his cards, every camera in the hotel would be on all the time, and I would have to be more careful. I put my glasses back on and went shopping again. I found a blonde wig. I went back to my hotel. I'm now in my room wearing my sports shirt, slacks, wig, and sunglasses. I went back to the convention center to see where her group was. She was still in class, so I went up to her room, knocked twice, and said, "Hotel security." No one answered, so I went in. Her suitcase and carry-on were there, and I knew they were hers because my handwriting was on the luggage tags. The other suitcase and carry-on had a different name, Dr. Jack C. Jenkins. The bed looked like it had been through a riot, so I thought they had taken a quickie before leaving. His clothes were all over the place, but hers were always that way. He left his wallet and other things that men carry in their pockets on the bathroom bar after swimming at the pool or on the beach. It didn't take me long to get everything they owned and put it in one bag after another until there was nothing left to put in. Her makeup case even fit. I put a change of clothes for her and a pair of his shorts on the bed, put his wallet in my pocket, smoothed out my wig, put on my glasses, and left. I kept my head down the whole way down the hall, in the lift, through the lobby into the taxi stand. He put the 2 bags in his trunk while I sat in the back seat and said, "Airport, please." He was the first cab in the line. I paid him, took the 2 bags, and stood outside. I canceled all of Maria's credit cards, even her business card. No one asked me why I was canceling them. They just said they would. I also canceled her phone. All of these charges went away right away. Then I called his bank and canceled all of Dr. Jenkins's cards and phone. I took the next taxi back to my hotel and called the Air Force Base to see if there were any flights back to Conus. Sometimes there were empty seats, so military members and their families could take a free ride. First, I had to leave very early the next morning for MacDill Air Force Base in Florida. I signed up for that one. Because I had checked, I took the 2 suitcases down 3 flights of stairs and out the back door, where there were no cameras. I threw them in the trash can and went back to my room to take a nap and get ready for my trip to MacDill. There wasn't any in-flight service, so you had to share the crew's coffee and food, which they brought on their own. I think I had some cheese crackers and candy bars, but they weren't interested. After a short hitchhiking trip to the Tampa Airport passenger terminal, I caught a flight to Cincinnati. It was the earliest flight I could find that would get me close to home and work in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. When I got home, the first thing I did was call a moving company. The second thing I did was Google Dr. Jack C. Jenkins. He was a pulmonologist in Elizabethtown and married to Dr. Georgia Jenkins, a pediatrician also in Elizabethtown. I looked through Maria's things and turned on her computer. She had two, the small one she kept with her all the time for work. There were a lot of emails between her and Jenkins going back 6 months. I had been gone 8. They started out innocently enough. She was having trouble breathing one day, and our clinic sent her to him. Soon after that, they stopped writing each other and started messaging instead. I didn't think to check his phone for messages, but I'm glad I did. They were both very honest about what they wanted to do to each other and how they did it. If I had any doubts, his cell phone quickly cleared them up. It was a truly romantic relationship. My name was only mentioned a few times, and that was when I was going home and the relationship ending. Neither of them was in love with the other. They were just enjoying the love. He asked her if she would find another lover at our next duty station, and she said she probably wouldn't unless I went on another assignment by myself. He told her she could come back to him if that happened, but she said she wasn't interested because they were over. He then told her they would have to make the most of the next few months. So when this convention came up, they both thought it was a great chance, so they made plans to go together. He can say that it was medically related, and his wife wouldn't argue with that. The next day, the movers came, and everything I wanted went to a local storage facility. Maria's parents in Texas got everything else. We lived in government-provided housing, so I called them and told them I was getting a divorce and leaving my room, and that was it. When she came back the next day, she wouldn't have a place to live. The next thing that needed to be done was going to Mrs. Dr. Jenkins's office. "I'm sorry, sir. You have to have a referral to see Dr. Jenkins." I gave the receptionist Dr. Jack Jenkins' wallet and said, "This is my referral." I looked at my watch and said, "I'll be out of here in 5 minutes." 3 minutes later, I was led into her office. "Where did you get this?" she'd ask. "At my wife's hotel room in Honolulu." "What the heck was that there for?" "Just sitting there with the rest of their stuff in a really messed up bed," he said. I gave her his phone. "You might want to look at his messages before they get home tomorrow." "What should I say to my husband when I find his wallet?" "Wow, you're smart. You'll figure it out. Thank you, and don't fall into the trap either." Maria's car belonged to her cosmetics company, so I didn't touch it. Mine, on the other hand, was mine, and I had it towed to a garage to store it. The tow company left a note on the door of the house she no longer lived in, but they would see when she got there. I went to base and booked a room at the VOQ for the rest of my leave. I looked at airline schedules to get an idea of when she would return, so I waited in my rental car. Her car pulled up in the early evening. The junior officer housing didn't have garages, so she parked on the street. The tow company's notice was on the door, so she took it down and read it. She unlocked and opened the door, and when she saw the empty room, she dropped to her knees. The front door stayed open while she ran through the house. She walked in, took out her phone, and called someone. The call was short, and she quickly looked around and ran to her car, laying rubber all the way down the street. I had no idea that type of car could do that. Since everyone in my family was from Louisiana, I didn't have anyone close to whom I could talk. I still had some friends from before I went to Korea, but they weren't close enough for me to tell them about my impending divorce. I felt alone. It took me 2 days to find a lawyer. I wanted to serve her while I was still there, so I gave him her phone number. When the papers were ready, he called her and told her to come to his office. All he said was that he had some papers for her. When she came in, I was watching closed-circuit TV in his conference room. When she was served, she passed out. When she woke up, she called for me, but my lawyer wouldn't answer. "I know he found us in Hawaii. I don't know how, but I know it was him," she said. "When can she see me?" he asked. "Whenever he shows up, I guess." "Tell him it didn't mean anything when you see him." It was just love. He talked again, and this time he looked really angry. "I got divorced a lot of times, and almost never did the other person say, 'I cheated because I fell in love.' It's just love. It's never just love, though. Because someone is always upset, it's always about the relationship or something that's wrong with it. When you really love your partner, you don't need a reason to just love them. You never need just love if your relationship is strong. Mrs. Samuel, you blew it. For just love, you ended a good marriage to a good man. I think you should try to figure out what made you get into Dr. Jenkins's bed and fix it. It's too late for that in this relationship, but maybe in your next one." She walked slowly out of his office with what the military calls a 1,000-yard stare. This is the blank, unfocused look that all fighters get from seeing the horrible things going on around them. I looked at her that way for a long time, but I didn't feel anything. She didn't call me, so I stayed in town a few more days before leaving to catch my ride back to Korea. After 3 months away from home, my tour ended, and I was back in the United States and at Fort Knox. I moved into bachelor officers' quarters, got my car and all of my personal belongings out of storage, and called my lawyer right away. Our divorce court date wasn't until about a month away. I looked for Maria's car a few times the first few times I drove through town, but I never found it. I ate most of my dinners at the Officers Club, or O Club. It was about my 4th or 5th time there that I saw her. She was having a cute dinner with another officer, and I knew him because he lived in the BOQ too. I'd never seen her with Dr. Jenkins before, so seeing her with someone else was kind of weird. It hurt a little. It was impossible for me to eat without staring at her the whole time. For a split second, I thought she saw me and recognized me, but she didn't show any sign. I finished my meal, signed my bill, and left. 2 nights later, I saw her with the same officer. She saw me then, and her reaction showed she hadn't the night before. Later, I was talking to another officer in the BOQ's day room when 2 other people sat down nearby. One of them was the guy I had seen her with both times at the club. He told her, "She's a prick and a tease. Tonight was our 3rd date and not even a kiss. The guys she's been with before all say the same thing. Nobody has said that he's been in her trousers. We only hear about some made-up husband in Korea. Why is she going on dates when she has a husband? Well, who cares? All I want is the body, and that doesn't matter who's coming." That's pretty pathetic, Major, trying to hump the wife of a fellow soldier that's overseas. Come on, he's in Korea for Christ's sake, not some sand dune someplace. In Korea, he can get all girls he wants. Perhaps he does not want any. Perhaps he loves his wife. Hold on, man, I didn't tell her to go hang out with him. That's her choice. It's still pretty sad you're trying to sleep with her. The doorbell rang after midnight, and I went up to answer it. Since I sleep in my pants, I didn't bother putting on clothes. When I opened the door, there she was. "Hello, Jimmy," she said, but I didn't answer. "May I come in?" I moved out of the way and she put her purse down on the hall table. I went back to my room and put on my trousers. She was standing by the half-open window. "Marissa, what do you want?" I asked. "Why did you find out I lied?" "I woke up one morning in your hotel room in Hawaii. His things, like in a rumpled bed, were what I found." She laughed. "I thought it might have been you. What were you doing there?" she asked. I told her my story. "You have left us very little." I didn't mean it. "The furniture you shipped is still at my parents'. You really had a scorched earth policy, didn't you? While married to me, you loved another man. You shouldn't be rewarded for that. This line makes a claim. You told his wife." "I did. And gave her his phone. And wallet. They are getting divorced, and it's really nasty. Good for her. Will ours be nasty? Doesn't have to be. What do I need to do? Have you signed for it?" "No." "Why not?" "I wanted to wait until you get back and talk to you first. How could you know I was coming back? You're an armor officer. Where else would they send you?" I plotted a long, full speech I knew would make you forgive me and take me back, but now it seems so. I don't know. Inadequate, so honestly, I don't know what to say. An apology won't work with you. Not for cheating anyway. And I certainly can't deny it, and I can't blame it on drugs or alcohol, so here I am with no way to help my own case. You're right. Why don't you go? Because I know you, and it's been gnawing on you the whole time that you do not understand why your perfectly sweet, innocent, loving wife should have loved another man. Not once, not twice, but at least a dozen times, and enjoyed it every time. All right, stop right there. I really don't need to hear how much you love cheating. Leave. Okay? I'm so sorry. I crossed the line. But you probably still want to know why, right? At first, I did for a few weeks. I kept going over all the things I could have done wrong, but there was nothing. I didn't do anything to make you cheat. There was no going back after I was sure of that. No, it wasn't my problem. It was yours. Sure thing. Even though it wasn't your fault, you still want to know why. Get out, I said as I walked over to the door and opened it. I'm not interested. She hadn't sat down yet, so she grabbed her bag at the door and left. 3 nights later, in the BOQ day room, I heard the officer who had been seeing Maria saying that he had finally fallen in love with the iceberg. I felt like she was mad at someone and was loving me despite that person, but I didn't care, he said. It was all I could do to love her. He was truly persona non grata, and every other officer ripped into him. He left the BOQ because no one would bother with him. We all went to court together, Maria with her lawyer, me with mine. The judge finally asked her why she hadn't signed the application, and she said, "Because I think there might be a chance to save the marriage." "What do you think, Captain?" he asked me. "Is it possible to save it?" Maybe until 3 weeks ago when she cheated again, this time with another officer. I lied to the judge. The marriage would never work out. What do you think, Mrs. Samuel? Isn't he right? No, sir. He's not. It looks like we have one here who doesn't agree with us. That's why I like my job. Captain Samuel, what proof do you have that she lied? The word of the officer she cheated with. Another officer? That's pretty low, isn't it? Yes, sir. Almost as low as a wife who cheats, I said. Mrs. Samuel, could you please go on the stand? Why? Because I am going to put you under oath and then ask you the exact question that I previously asked you. What if I don't want to? Then I'll throw you in jail for contempt of court. See how it works? I want the truth. If you deny you cheated, then we get the gentleman your husband says you cheated with in here and ask him the same question, and so on and so on. Eventually we get to the truth. Now, will you take the stand, please? Of course she lied. All right, I cheated. Are you happy now? She asked me. Ain't yet. The judge hit the table with his gavel and said, "Divorce granted." Now I'm happy, I told her as I looked over at her. Everything went well as planned. She got half of what we had. We saw each other every once in a while but didn't talk. The Docs Jenkins got divorced soon after we did. I didn't know or care if he and Maria got back together. I still don't. One Saturday morning, I was reading in the BOQ day room when a female major walked in with a suitcase and a carry-on. Can I help you, Major? I stood up and started to walk towards her. How are you? No thanks, Captain. With a sequoia-sized piece of wood on her shoulder, she said, I'm fine, quite capable. I didn't say you weren't, he answered. I said, I just asked if you needed any help. I sat back down, picked up my National Geographic again, and continued reading. She went to the lift, pushed the button, and waited. She waited impatiently because she did it at least twice more. I laughed and thought that maybe she just really needed to go to the toilet. I saw her later at the O Club, but we never talked. This went on for 2 weeks. She was mean to everyone, so we all avoided her. Then it got really cold in the morning. The weather had been changing, and up until that point, we had a great autumn. As I walked to my car, I saw the Major looking into the hood of her car. At that point, we knew her last name was Bradley because that's what her name tag said. But no one knew or cared what her first name was. Sir, Captain, could you please take a look at my car and help me start it? I kept going. I told her that another officer heard me and said the same thing, so I got in my car and drove off. That afternoon, after work, I parked next to her car. As I was getting out, a service tow truck pulled up, and she came out of the BOQ and glared at me. Several of us watched through the windows as they towed her car. The next morning, I had to get to work early. It was a terrible day. It was driving rain that was so cold it hurt. I saw a person huddled in the cold driving rain, so I pulled over and rolled down the passenger window. Hey, soldier, need a ride? The figure turned and it was Major Bradley. She looked at me a couple of seconds without answering. I wasn't going to sit there with the window down and rain pouring in. Suit yourself, I yelled. I started the window up. Yes, please, she said. Where to? I asked. Post engineers, she answered. The post engineers worked on building and maintaining the installation. They were in charge of the roads, lights, HVAC, water, and other parts of the whole thing. The ride was quiet until we got there, and she thanked me when she got off. How nice, I said in a sarcastic tone. She had parked her car at the BOQ that night, As officers, we could eat with the soldiers in the dining halls or in our small BOQ apartments. I liked cooking sometimes, but most of the other officers ate in the O Club most of the time. I cooked a few times a week, and small groups of us would sit together. Being BOQ was almost empty on the weekends, because most of the people who lived there went home or somewhere else. Major Bradley was always eating by herself in the club, which didn't surprise me. It was a Sunday night, and the place was almost empty. I was sitting alone when she came over to my table and asked if she could join me. I stood up and asked her, "Are you sure you wouldn't be more comfortable at another table?" I asked. "Yes." I nodded in the chair across from mine and said, "Then please." A waiter just showed up out of nowhere, pulled out a chair for her, put her serviette on her lap, and gave her a menu. It was, "Would the Major care for a drink?" She asked me, "What are you having?" "Gin and tonic." He left after she told him, "I'll have the same. By the way, my name is Maggie." We shook hands across the table. James, of course, but naturally everybody calls me Jimmy. She didn't say anything, just kept looking at the food. I took a seat and waited for her to order. "Don't wait," she said later. "Your food will get cold." I said, "That's fine," but I didn't mean it. In fact, he took my plate and ran to the kitchen to bring them both out at the same time, right before she was fed. The food made the Major tamer. We didn't talk much while we ate, though we talked about the weather and our work. We didn't really say much else. We got up to leave when we were done. After getting our clothes, we ran out into the wind to get to the BOQ. We both went into that building, into the open lift. She got away with 2, and then it was my turn for 3. Even though it wasn't as cold as it had been, the wind was still very cold. But Major Bradley wasn't. It wasn't very heartwarming, but at least she spoke up. The BOQ had 2 other majors who were about the same age as her. There were 10 people in our group, 5 captains, 4 first lieutenants, and 5 second lieutenants. I was a captain, and all of the lieutenants were younger than her. I was about 2 years younger than her. A few of the subalterns started playing pool and getting loud one night after having dinner with me at the club. We were talking in the day room at the time. "I'm going to my room," became her answer. "Mine neither," I said. Then she looked at me and said, "Do you mean you, Captain, are going to my room?" "No." The words I used were shaky. "I meant that I'm going to my room." "Oh," she said with a smile. As the lift took us down, she turned around and said, "I'm sorry I was such a jerk at first." "I might tell you why one day." I said, "I'd love to hear it." Then everything changed. We ate in together a few times a week, sometimes in my room. Her behavior towards everyone else also changed, and a lot of people asked me what I did to make her change. She called me early one morning to wish me a happy birthday and ask if we could have dinner together. "No, not at the club," I told her. "We can go to a downtown spot." I said, "That's fine." When she stepped out of the lift, everyone in the day room gasped. We were used to seeing her in uniform and everyday clothes, so when we saw her dressed to go out, we were all shocked. I met her halfway across the room, and as we walked out, she grabbed my arm. I picked the best restaurant in town, which was a bit pricey, but well worth it. I had to force myself to pay, even though she wasn't happy about it. She said I was her guest, so I should pay. Some of my old moodiness was starting to show, so I reached across the table and grabbed both of her hands to stop her from hitting me. "If you still want to pay, go ahead, but I need to say something. It looks like we'll become good friends, but I will never talk to you again if your rude attitude starts to show, as it seems like it might. Do you get it?" she said. "Yes." "Now, I'd love to take you out tonight. If we're still talking on my birthday, you should take me out. All right?" She smiled and said, "Okay, thanks." When I got back to the BOQ, she invited me to her room for a drink. Her room was decorated, but mine was just furniture and curtains. When I walked into my room at 3 a.m., she told me she had a hard day at work the next day. Soon, we started dating and making out. Love wasn't on the menu yet, but we knew it was on its way. Then, to my surprise, it was our 6th-month anniversary. We were having dinner in her room. She cooks almost as well as I do. I sat on her couch and she came over to me. She sat on my lap with her knees on the couch pillows and kissed me long and softly. "Jimmy, it's been almost a year since I was in love, My husband cheated on me and brought home a sickness. I felt so bad about myself that I swore I would never be with anyone again. I see now that it wasn't a good idea, so I changed it when I met you." She started taking my shirt off. "When I first came here, I was still upset about my divorce, and as you know, I was not very nice. Let's just say that we had a great time all around. I was having a great time loving Major Maggie Bradley, so I decided to do it all the time. We did this every week until I was sent on a 30-day temporary duty assignment to Belgium to work with NATO forces. It was an interesting month, and I enjoyed both the trip and the assignment. I called Maggie and left a message that I would be home on Saturday. The BOQ was pretty empty, as it usually was on Saturdays. I put my stuff away and knocked on Maggie's door, but she never answered. I went to the club for a nice meal and passed one of the smaller private rooms that was set aside for parties, dinners, and other events. The double doors were open, and I saw 4 women having a serious conversation about a guy. I almost felt bad for him. Maggie knew I would be back in the evening, so I really hoped she would come over for some welcome home love. But she didn't. The next morning, I called her from my office and she didn't answer. I went to her BOQ and saw her car parked, but she didn't answer when I knocked. The next day, I tried to call her again and had about the same luck as the day before, so I went to her office. Her secretary, assistant, or gatekeeper told me she was out, but I could see her pacing through the smoked glass around her office. I didn't know what was wrong because no one told me. I stood outside her building until she came out and called her that evening before she got to her car. She did not answer when I said, "Maggie, talk to me. What's going on?" "Avoid me, you jerk," she almost spat. "You're the same as the others." "What's the rest of it?" She kept going. When she got to her car, she turned around and said, "I thought you were different, but you look a lot like my ex-husband. You only want to find a new poop. How many women did you love last month?" Her door was already open, so she went to get it, opened it, and left. I stood there and tried to figure out what was going on. I tried for a week to get her to talk to me, but she wouldn't. I was lost, man. We saw each other in the BOQ, but she was as cold as ice. Trying to talk to her that way almost made me look bad in front of other officers. After that, another week went by. I went back to the club and saw her sitting at a table with a man. They looked like they were having a good time and laughing, so I thought my relief was on station and let him take over. He was wearing an Air Force uniform, and the only time we ever had Air Force people on our base was when we were planning a big airlift of tanks and troops. That wasn't in my plans, and maybe I didn't need to know. They were only on base for a few days, so this guy must have been able to talk very quickly. I was crazy because I had no idea why she was mad at me. I'd tried to talk to her several more times, and the last time was in the BOQ's day room. As I walked up, she pulled out her phone and said, "You're about 10 seconds away from having the MPs called on you for lovely harassment." I left because the lovely abuse was something that shouldn't be loved around with. So I did one of the things we had talked about before. I moved out of the BOQ and into an apartment off the site. I only stayed in 2 places before I found one I liked. I didn't have much to bring with me to the BOQ, so it was pretty easy. I slept on an air mattress for the first 3 nights at my new place. After that, I waited for the delivery of the things I had stored when I found Maria cheating. The post-apartment thrift store had all the kitchen tools, pots and pans, skillets, and other things a kitchen needs. In the military, you know that after 3 years in one place, you'll be sent somewhere else. I had been at Knox for almost a year. I had at most 2 full years left. Knox was a huge installation, and I might not see Maggie much for the next 2 years. I was told to go on TDY again, but this time it was for Hawaii. I almost asked to be moved, but I thought, what the hell? I'll go. Then, after 2 weeks, I was promoted to major. I saw Maggie the night before she went crazy in the same small room of the club where I was promoted. I got my brand new, shiny insignia and congratulations from people I barely knew. My TDY started less than a week after I was promoted, so all of my orders had to be changed to reflect my new rank. My ex-spouse Maria tapped me on the shoulder 2 days before I was supposed to leave. "Look what the cat dragged in," she said. My car was being fixed downtown because it was going to be parked in my apartment complex for about a month. Screw you, Maria. After reading all of this, I think you haven't been loving much lately, have you? What does this mean? Maggie. She's one of my customers, and when I found out she was dating you, I set her straight about you. I saw her last week, and she said she told you to get lost." Well, damn, I thought. That would make a lot of sense. "What did you tell her?" "No way, no, I'm never telling you that. It is too much fun watching you wriggle. Goodbye." She left and got into a car. It looks like someone was waiting for her. On the way home, I spent a lot of time thinking about what Maria told Maggie about me. It hit me while I was at home packing. She had to tell me I lied. That wasn't the only thing I thought would hurt Maggie more. How was I going to fix it? I didn't know. After that, I knew. I thought I could fix things if Maria had been telling her I was cheating. I went through my files and found the papers for my divorce. I copied them all and put them in an envelope. At noon, I had to be on the flight line. Then, they would only have to load the troops and the supplies would be ready to go. My ride picked me up at my flat and took me through the post engineer's office. I sped through Maggie's security guard and into her office before he could stop me. When her helper yelled at me, she looked up with a shocked face. I threw the letter on her desk. "The only thing my ex-wife could have told you to piss you off as badly as you are is that I cheated on her. I don't believe anything else would have done it. When you get some time, read that," I said, "then tell me who cheated. Then find yourself a man you trust and who trusts you. But you better be ready to talk to him before you go off the deep end and accuse him of something he didn't do. Communication is a pretty good thing." The car driver took me straight to the airport, where I caught my Hawaiian flight. My cell phone rang just as we were getting ready to board the plane. Maggie, of course. I turned it off. At 36,000 feet above nothing, I couldn't talk to anyone. There were 3 more from her when we got to land. I just told her that talking to her was a good idea, but I didn't want to talk to her, not with her anyway. The month in Hawaii went by very quickly. It was a busy and fun time, and the training made the trip well worth it. When it was time to go home, we were told which plane we would be taking. An Air Force NCO came up to our group while we were loading on the flight line and asked if Major James Samuel was there. I put up my hand. "Sorry, sir, your flight changed. I'll take you to it." I didn't care which flight he was on because I was already on it. It was his job to carry my bag. My place on the plane was very close to the cabin. After being in the air for a while, the co-pilot got up and came over to me. "Major Samuel?" he asked. "Yes," I replied. It said, "The pilot wants to see you in the cabin." I got up and walked towards the cabin. Getting in, as he pointed to the co-pilot spot, he said, "Sit down, Major." He gave me a headset and said, "Don't touch anything." I sat down and put them on. "Put those on and we won't have to holler." Well, if you've never been on a big plane before, you should try sitting in a seat in the cabin, even if it's just for a short time. It was great. But the pilot finally spoke up. He must have known what I was thinking because he didn't try to say anything else for a long time so that I could understand everything. We never met, but we did see each other once, at the Officers Club at Fort Knox. I was there having dinner with my sister. I spent most of the dinner hour and much of later that evening in her room hearing about how big of a disappointment the man she had been dating was and how he cheated on his ex-wife, a wonderful lady she bought her makeup from. My sister and I talk a lot, probably far too much, but that's neither here nor there. What was funny was she was crying even while telling me how big of an arsehole her boyfriend, or rather, ex-boyfriend was. For whatever reason, she had an issue saying ex. Anyway, the more we talked and the more time went on, the more she cried when talking about him. I looked at him. I sat on the edge of the pilot seat and didn't touch the controls. That big jerk was flying by itself. A month ago, she was given some documents which proved that the ex-wife of her ex-boyfriend. Are you following this, Major? I said yes. Good. Anyway, the documents proved that the ex-wife cheated, not the ex-boyfriend. Needless to say, she was a pretty happy camper, and she tried to call the ex-boyfriend. Listen, I'm tired of all the exes. She tried to call you to apologize, but you wouldn't take her calls. She went to your office and found you were here. So being the good sister she is, she called me and asked me if I was scheduled to participate in getting you and your people back to Knox. I told her I was, and she asked me if I could maybe talk to you and express her apologies since you won't let her tell you herself. She'd been married before, and the jerk she'd been married to did cheat, caught him screwing some tart in their bed, nearly killed her heart, and it took till you for her to trust any man again except me and our father. She even went back to using her old name. She said to me when she first got to Knox she had a huge chip on her shoulder and nobody would talk to her and nobody respected her. She said to me even you had some pretty nasty things to say to her and about her. That's because she was a dyed-in-the-wool horse's ass. He cracked up. That's what she said. Anyway, all of that was caused by her cheating ex-husband. Then you started to treat her like a person, and when you took her out to dinner for her birthday, she changed her mind. From then on, she was all yours, but you didn't know it. So here we are, talking about my sister on one of the world's biggest plains over the Pacific Ocean. That being said, I doubt the American people would like it. But what the heck? I asked what rank he was before he spoke. He was a major. Listen, Major, what they don't know won't hurt them. She didn't give me any chance to protect myself at all. She always thought the worst would happen. While I understand she had a bad experience with her ex, that has nothing to do with me. It bothers me that she treats me the same way she treats all men, except for you and your dad. I'm not sure if I'll accept her apology, and even if I do, it's not likely that we'll get back together. We talked for about an hour until the co-pilot came back and took his place again. As we pulled away from Knox, her brother turned to me.